Bruce Dumont back in Chicago. We take this a special segment, and we're going to have lots of callers, and so that's why we're extending the segment with our guests. And let's go to Edward. He's been waiting a long time listening to us on WCGO in Evanston, Illinois. Go ahead, Edward.
Yeah, Bruce, good evening. So used to be a Kasich fan, and I voted for Mr. Trump in 2016.
Yeah.
So my 401k is doing good. I work in healthcare, so I definitely don't want to be displaced, and I am confident the private insurance industry is going to get better, so we don't need to go to Medicare for all.
Yeah.
So I will be voting for Mr. Trump in November.
Is there any reservation at all that you have?
Yeah, the tweeting's, bothersome, but not to the point where I would not vote for him. I really look for substance more than personality. You have a party on the other side who is more interested in the way somebody looks or the personality as opposed to economic policy.
What do you mean by the way they look?
Well, it's racial politics,
Why do you think, Edward? Why do you think that the African Americans who were running for president in the Democratic Party, and I will also include,
Deval Patrick.
Yeah, well, and also the
Cory Booker.
Why do you think they've not done well in the Democratic primary field?
Personality, bad messaging. So
I want to ask Stephanie.
Stephanie,
at the beginning of this process, everyone was touting the diversity of the Democratic field. What's your answer to the question why the African Americans and the Mexican American did not do well in this primary?
Well, again, of substance, what were they bringing to the table? And I know Kamala had a lot of issues with how she was a prosecutor and her issues with that. Cory, just weak. I mean, they just weren't great candidates. And just because you're in that packaging doesn't mean that everybody's going to love you. And so I joked about last time when they ran against Trump, it was 3 white people. And I'm thinking right after Obama, they didn't have a more diverse candidate right after his term, 8 years. And so now they just threw a bunch of people together, and there wasn't a lot of there. So that's why they just
I would also add that Joe Biden commands a lot of support in the African American community. Now, as I've said on this show even a year ago, Bruce, Joe Biden's going nowhere. Yeah, he's done. I mean, he's basically toast right now. But
you said he was dumb.
Done.
I said he was dumb, and now I'm saying he's done.
Dumb and done. Okay.
He's dumb and done. But anyway, that was an issue, and Kamala's prosecutorial background hurt her as well.
To build on what Josh said, just very briefly, I think Biden has taken up the moderate lane to the exclusion of a bunch of other moderate candidates. And then I think if you look at Cory Booker, Beto O'Rourke, they were all trying to claim sort of like the Obama lane, and they failed because of Pete Buttigieg, who I think is obviously not a particularly good candidate. So I think that's why they bounced out. But just to Edward from Evanston, I do want to say, I understand your 401k is doing well. I understand that things seem to be doing well. But you said you want someone with substance and not personality. Take a hard look at Trump's actual policies, and take a hard look at what it means for the future of the country, and you'll find that the substance isn't there. But, obviously, vote however you want. But it's not just about your 401k. It's about the future of this country.
David?
We have to address this discussion of the economy, which is increasingly disconnected from the reality of most Americans. Over 50% of Americans make under $30,000 per year. 50% of Americans have under $500 of savings, which means they're one financial mishap from total devastation. 44 million Americans have a staggering amount of student loan. The average credit card debt per household is near $20,000. So we can look at the unemployment rate and the stock market. And by the way, most Americans don't own any stock, directly or indirectly. And that doesn't address the reality, which is one of precarity for over 50% of the country. And that's often left out of these economic forecasts and appraisals.
Why do people, according to polls, why do people seem to feel good about what's going on?
I can't.
If their reality is, as you say it, they're not feeling that level of loneliness and loss. They're feeling just the opposite.
I have to quote another leader who maybe Trump aspires to be, but Julius Caesar, bread and circuses. The country is entertained and it's mostly fed. We don't have a massive crisis in that respect.
And Bruce, you also, to address David's point, you also have the biggest rise in wages is among lower income workers than it is among higher income workers.
Uneducated high school dropouts, all those incomes are going up.
And minorities, unemployment is at record low. And I mean, there's just been a lot of focus and growth in that area. So I think that, Trump has only been in office 3 years. The issues you talk about, which are fair, and I agree with
yes,
with
certainly.
You,
They definitely predate
decades
Trump.
long.
They're decades
I can
long.
argue that he was solely the fault,
Right.
or solely the culprit.
One thing I would also like to hear, because the Democrats frequently talk about all of the corporations that aren't paying any federal income tax, and it's a long list of well-known companies. I would like to see a Democrat or with some Republican come up with a plan that these companies should be taxed in some way.
Bernie Sanders literally has that plan. Elizabeth Warren has that plan on.
What
Bloomberg has a plan.
Why didn't Obama have that?
Klobuchar has the plan. They're all different. They're varying levels.
You were the one who said nothing
Warren
about
and
nothing
Biden
pre-2016,
have been in
and
the
you're talking
Senate
about
how long?
Obama. Why are we talking about Obama?
What I want to hear, I want to hear it in a debate. I don't want them to tell me go look at my website. I want to hear it articulated, just as Andrew Yang, I think, clearly articulated his $1,000 person,
I need
which
$1,000.
was
I'm
interesting.
like,
that sounded like a pretty good deal to a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
of
like,
people,
I
and
need
he
it.
was one of the first to go. We've got to move on. Thank you very much. Let's go to Jeff in Knoxville, Tennessee, listening to us on WNOX. Nice to hear from Tennessee this evening.
Bruce, I appreciate your call and appreciate the program. I heard earlier mention of the 2018 election in terms of the loss of House seats by the Republicans.
Yes.
And what that might portend for this fall's races.
Right.
I'm sort of amazed that the knowledge to the Mueller investigation that there was no Russia collusion with Trump was known in 2017, yet that basically uncertainty was held over the electorate of this country in a way that I find so outrageous and so disturbing. Paul Ryan did not have I think there was enough uncertainty still in terms of Trump, who he was and his performance, and timidity in terms of how to navigate Washington. But as far as I'm concerned, that election was tampered with by the Mueller investigation, and I'm concerned that there's not more interest from my civil liberty concerned of friends across the political spectrum, particularly on the left, of the fraud that was committed on the FISA court. And I'm just concerned that as long as we hate Trump or whatever, then we almost have justify a mob mentality, so that Stone can go to prison forever, and we can ruin people's lives. And I mean, even people that I don't care for, I don't want to see their life ruined. And hopefully, there can be a cascade of as more is revealed with the Durham investigation as to what really occurred with the Russia investigation that will, I think, help Americans see what happened in 2018 as a real fraud upon the electorate.
Okay, Peter Hanna will have a comment.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting. I actually spent the time, as much as I really didn't want to, reading the Mueller report in its entirety, and I think part of the reason that you're articulating the views you're articulating is because most people didn't. Most people relied on secondary sources to explain what exactly was contained in it. If you take the time to look at it, and honestly, I can't even recommend that you do because it's really painful to read. You will find that there was a lot of criminal activity that occurred. In the end, what the ultimate outcome was that there is a Department of Justice policy that says the president cannot be criminally indicted. That's just the policy. That's just the way it is. The only thing that could occur is impeachment if you want to keep the president in check. And there were multiple footnotes in the report that cited the impeachment clause of the Constitution, saying We can't do anything, but it's impeachable. And then what happened? The House didn't even bring anything up in the Mueller report as a basis for impeachment. So I think a lot of people have the view you do, caller from Knoxville, that there was no there. But there was there. As to whether it will loom over the 2020 election like it did in the 2018 election, you're right. I don't think Mueller report is going to come up much in Democratic or liberal or like get out the vote, turn out conversations. But there's a lot of other stuff that will loom.
I think, Jeff, you nailed it absolutely in terms of your question. And if you read the Mueller report, which I did read the executive summary, I didn't read the whole report, Mueller clearly found that there was no collusion. So if there were crimes, they would have been prosecuted.
Exactly.
Okay, Jeff, we're going to go ahead. Last word to you, and then we're going to move on.
Peter, you served time or spent time in the Justice Department. Are you not concerned by the representations made to the FISA court?
You know what? Honestly, the FISA court stuff has always been extremely cryptic and secret. But if there were any misrepresentations, whether it was by Trump and his folks or Obama and their folks or, anyone, I don't really care about the party. I think there needs to be the equal administration of justice. So if there were misrepresentations to the FISA court that led to the, wiretapping of Trump associates and whatnot, I think an investigation will determine that that's there, and then the DOJ should take next steps. But look at, the whole thing with McCabe, right? Everyone who supported Trump wanted McCabe behind bars, and Bill Barr himself declined to prosecute him. So let's let the investigation play out, and if there is wrongdoing on either side, we should see to it. But I do want to emphasize, Jeff, that there was a lot of wrongdoing in the Mueller report. It wasn't just collusion. Collusion is not even a crime. It's just a word that I think a lot of people intentionally used to say this is the only thing that Trump can go down for. Josh said if something bad had happened, there'd be prosecutions. Well, there have been. There have been Paul Manafort, Roger Stone. There's several others. And actually, one last thing, truly. A lot of people complain, the Mueller report, we spent $29 million on that piece of crap, and what the heck, no collusion. Well, the Mueller report has led to prosecutions that has recovered back into the U.S. Treasury more than $100 million in assets from abroad. So in some way, it's paid for itself. And I challenge you, because you sound like an intelligent guy, look it up. Look it up, see for yourself.
Manafort and all these other prosecutions didn't have anything to do with Russia. They had to do with things that Manafort was doing way before he ever joined the Trump campaign.
That's not true.
But it is.
Stephanie, word to you, and then we're going to go back to another call.
Well, it's just so interesting to me that, again, we're talking about what we're doing for 2020 in November, and a lot of this was before the election. And since this time, okay, I'm losing. I got so much. Okay. It was nothing but nothing burger after nothing burger, investigation after investigation, and maybe we can't, cart him off to jail because he's the president. But I kept hearing that his children were involved. All these other people, we can certainly prosecute Donald Jr. and Eric Jr. because according to the left, they were also involved in this. They kept telling everybody, promising the Mueller report, this is going to be it. The Ukraine report, this is going to be it. And time after time, the most corrupt, the most dangerous president ever to hold office, and they still can't seem to get him on anything. So we've got to move on.
Bryan, we're going to go to you. You're listening to us on Sirius XM Radio. You're calling from Missouri. Whereabouts in Missouri?
I'm in Jefferson City.
Very good, the capital. Go ahead. How can we help you tonight?
My question is for Stephanie. I keep hearing you say how great he's doing and all the stuff he's doing, and I have become a political junkie over the last 2 years. I am a black middle-class union worker who is putting two twin daughters through college, and I get my ass kicked on taxes all the time. And it's gotten worse this tax cut. You tell me one reason why I would vote for that guy.
Well, oh my goodness.
Give me a reason.
I'll give you lots of reasons. We don't have enough time to cover everything. But
I want one. Just give me one.
Okay, let me tell you why you should vote for Donald Trump, because he wants to seal our borders, because open borders disproportionately affects.
You're
going to let me talk?
You should let me talk? You should let him respond.
Can I stop you
no, wait, I didn't even get it all out.
You gave him a reason.
No, it disproportionately affects me. Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Back
I want
to
to know what you're doing for me. Not about the border.
Me.
I don't care about that. What is he doing for me that's going to help me as an American? I'm not worried about the border.
Okay, let's let Stephanie respond.
Well, I don't know. I can only speak from Chicago because that's where I was born and raised. And I know the porous borders, open southern border, disproportionately affects black people negatively. And that's just fact. Their resources are being put in Hispanic neighborhoods because they constantly have a plethora of new people coming across demanding dentists and grocery stores, where in the neighborhood I grew up, everything's boarded up because people are leaving. The schools are closed. And I'm just telling you, if you can drive down the Pulaski Road in Chicago, you can see the Hispanic neighborhood is booming. No empty vacant lots, no garbage, grocery stores. My neighborhood, you go under the viaduct at 22nd and Pulaski, it looks like a bomb went off 30 years ago. So I know, do the numbers. We need to e-verify. We need to make sure people coming across, we know who they are, because it's disproportionately affects the black neighborhood. So, and that's why you should vote for Donald Trump.
Peter, and then Josh, and then back to you.
I'm also from Illinois, and I also have been down those same streets that you're talking about. And the reason why the Mexican community do so well is because they put money back in their own families. It's not because of something that Donald Trump did.
You're 100% right.
No,
you're 100% right.
No,
you challenged.
That is not the truth. I was a cop in Illinois, so I'm telling you what I know.
No.
This is not some dream that I'm making up. This is not some
same here.
propaganda that I'm putting
not
out there.
using E-Verify hurts
black
unskilled black workers. Period. And people are not using E-Verify. They're hiring illegals, taking jobs away from Americans.
And I just want to say to the caller. The caller, listen, you challenged her to give you one thing, and you heard nothing. And that is the truth. There is
not one
nothing.
thing.
Okay.
My taxes, I don't make millions of dollars.
Well, you have a
Stephanie,
very bad tax accountant,
may I
sir.
finish?
If your taxes didn't go down this last tax cut,
Stephanie,
because mine did.
10 million Americans paid more
Mine did.
taxes, more in taxes because of the Trump tax policy. And the majority of those were people who did a great deal of freelance work, which I'm in that group because I'm a writer.
I would like to address
people.
Bryan. You said you have twin boys, correct?
Twin daughters.
Twin daughters. Those twin daughters are going to enter a better job market and have a better chance at life because of what Donald Trump's economy and economic and deregulation and all of the things he's done, reducing the minority unemployment rate to the record low ever.
And Josh, if they lose their jobs, Bryan, if they lose their jobs, they're screwed.
And you know
if they get into the criminal justice system, they're screwed.
And your
if
black
they can't
daughters
afford,
will have school
excuse
choice.
Me, Stephanie, I'm talking. Excuse me, Stephanie.
Okay, I'm just
and
saying.
if they get in trouble, they are screwed. Okay, your daughters. Your daughters
about the economy and the job market. My reply to you is that my daughters are going to do well because of what I taught them.
Amen.
Exactly.
Because of something
school
that Donald
choice,
Trump
school
did.
choice.
And
Democrats do
like
not want us to have school choice.
Democrats. This is not about. We're not talking about Democrats. I'm asking you what Donald Trump is actually doing for this.
You
for
watch
me.
the State of the Union.
Watch
the State of the Union.
Brian, you've made your point. You got an answer. You didn't like it. Let's go to Mark.
You got an answer that was
Carmel,
wrong.
California.
You got an answer that was false.
Listening to us on KION. Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, Bruce, I like the after show. So this is actually rather entertaining.
Yeah.
And I expect we can speak a little more freely here. Although,
come to think of it, but we don't want to get in the habit of that. Go ahead.
No, I got you. But it's not a bad venue because, frankly, it keeps adds to your revenue. It's all good. So I was a Tea Party guy back in 07, 08, and we got horribly disenfranchised in 10 with Lois Lerner shutting us down and stopping the whole thing, the weaponizing the IRS. And so we kind of went underground. And we showed our little heads again a couple of years later, and we got the House back. And so that kind of hobbled Obama. And frankly, in hindsight, I'm glad that Mitt Romney didn't get the nod because he's shown his own true colors. Mm-hmm. And I was a Cruz supporter, as my wife was, during the early elections. And then when it came down to Trump, we kind of held our noses and voted for Trump. But we have been pleasantly surprised with what he has done, and this is the key word for here, because nobody has mentioned this, what he has achieved under duress. He's been under duress since day one. Okay, I mean, so it took 32 months for them to finish the Mueller investigation, so that led him to a great win, and they got the House back, and Nancy Pelosi in 18, and woo-hoo, but I got to tell you, we are a sleeping giant, and we're still out there. And if you look at simply the ratings of what people watch, and you see CNN and MSNBC and all these other liberal programs where a lot of people turn them on and click them on, and they're retirees, and they watch them all day long, and they listen to the brainwashing, well, the numbers show that a lot more people are watching Fox and listening to Fox and the diatribe that we're getting on Fox. So we're much more educated about the malfeasance of the past, the atrocities that happened during the Obama administration. When somebody earlier mentioned the occurrence on the tarmac between Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton, well, my God, how much does that eclipse what they actually impeached President Trump for? This is appalling to me. You talk about abuse of power. My God, we have an ex-president reaching out to a sitting attorney general that got charges somehow magically changed the language to where Comey came out and gave a 12-minute indictment of Hillary and a 13th-minute exoneration of her, saying nobody in their right mind would prosecute her because they're all afraid of getting Epsteined. That's a new noun. Nobody wants to get Epstein by the Clintons.
Mark, let me just say that
Comey said I didn't prosecute Hillary because she would have killed me. You believed James Comey said that?
You're watching too much Fox News, dude.
Mark, you have nailed it when you said in your opening comment, look at what this president has accomplished under duress. He has been chased from the moment he was elected. And look at what he's accomplished.
Full court press from the media, from the Democrats, and the never-Trumpers.
What are the accomplishments?
Mark, we've got to go.
Thank you so much. And Stephanie, I want you to run for office.
Oh, thank you. You're too kind. That's not my calling, but thank you.
Mark, thank you very much. Always nice to hear from Carmel, California. Let's go to Caesar, listening to us in Dallas, Texas. Go ahead.
Well, I'm in Oklahoma now.
Okay.
I just crossed over into the Oklahoma border, and I'm in Choctaw country and near Durant, Oklahoma.
Very good. Well, nice to hear from Oklahoma tonight.
Yeah, but I am from Texas. But just to go back, I think, well, the first thing is I will never vote for Trump. I never supported him in the first place and never will because I think he's too divisive. I think that he plays on the worst of who we are as human beings and Americans, and he divides us. That's number one. Number two, I think that when you talk about accomplishments and all of the things that are happening, the economy that we have today is because of Barack Obama's policy. That's the reason why we're here today. No one can run away from that, except that that's the truth. Here's the third thing. The third thing is that Donald Trump came out to abolish the Affordable Care Act without having anything to replace it. I'm a diabetic. I have a pre-existing condition, and they were ready to take that away from me where I had no cover whatsoever. And that was an abomination to me. All for the sake of politics. All for the sake of politics. I will never vote for Donald Trump, and I don't support him for that reason. For moral reasons. Number one, yes, there are a lot of things that you vote for people for. Partly because of the economy, but there are also moral reasons that you vote for people. And yes, if I can't feel good about this person saying something about my daughter, then I can't feel good about voting for them for president.
Caesar, stand by. I want to ask a question to Josh, but stand by. I want to give you the last word. Josh, can you speak to Caesar's point that that President Trump and the Republicans in Congress, they were so focused on tearing down Obamacare that they never took the time, even though they had years to plan it, they never had the Republican plan in place with the votes to get it passed. And that people like Caesar ask a legitimate question is, why are you throwing something out when you don't have a replacement for it?
They did have a replacement. They were all ready to do it. And then John McCain, who ran such a weak campaign against Obama, Thank goodness we had Palin to at least be the attack dog and go after some of Obama's questionable associations. But in any event, they had it ready to go. And then John McCain came in at the last minute and screwed Trump because he didn't like Trump.
What was the name of the bill?
So
What was the name
here-
of the
yeah,
bill?
It was
What
already.
was it?
What
What was the bill that the Republicans were
What was the
gonna? What was it called? What was it? What were
I
its
don't-
features?
I do not
That was not
remember
a
the
vote
name
on
of
a
the bill.
replacement.
I think it was
Caesar,
called
once
the
a Caesar.
HCA.
Wait a minute. Caesar,
But there
go
was a
ahead.
bill
Let
to
Caesar.
replace it.
There was no replacement.
There was nothing.
Don't
Yes, it
have it because they didn't have it. They didn't have an answer for it. I work in healthcare. I've watched the benefit and the access of people that get access to healthcare. I've watched it improve people's health because of what it's able to do. I've watched the health industry totally change before my eyes. I've been in it for 25 years. I work as a chaplain, frontline chaplain, emergency room in a major hospital in Dallas, Texas. I watched the Affordable Care Act
It's not
literally change how hospitals deal with their patients.
Caesar,
And-
you know what? I know a
Thank
lot
you,
of
Caesar,
small business
for
owners
doing
Right.
what
who
you do, Caesar, and
don't
thank you
think that
for
it's affordable.
actually
Not
speaking
affordable.
the
absolutely
truth.
tell me it's
because
not
what
affordable.
we're going to hear from the Republicans again and again are lies. There was no replacement. 20 million more.
There
20
wasn't a
million.
replacement.
20 million more people have health care,
That they
and
can't
you're
afford,
right.
that
I
they
work
don't
for
have
a-
access to, and they
Caesar,
don't-
tell
they
your
don't
friends,
have- they
tell
can't afford
everyone
it.
in
It's not
Texas,
affordable health
because
care.
even if there's a 1% chance,
I
a
don't
1%
care.
chance to win Texas, that will do it.
No, let me explain.
Crucial point,
Yes,
Caesar.
but
I'm
let
sure
me
you're
just
aware
say
of this.
Let me just say this. Let me say this about the Affordable Care Act.
It's not affordable. It's
number
Obamacare.
one-
Let him talk.
Go ahead.
Well, you can call it whatever you want to.
It's
I
Obamacare.
got health care. You can call it Obamacare, Affordable Care.
It's not
I don't
affordable.
care what you call it. I got access to health care. And there are a bunch of people that get access to health
20
care.
million.
Okay, I got to
What's
tell you,
important?
I am a
Here's
type
the
2
other thing
diabetic.
that's-
No,
here's
no,
the-
and
here
but
is
I
the
this
other
is
thing
this.
that's the
Okay,
problem.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's the other thing that's the problem. The
Okay.
other thing that's the problem is the fact that now they've taken out the ability for the government, for folks that didn't participate in it, to do it. Now I have to pay $900 a month for my premium. $900 a month for my premium to cover me and my family. I got a 26-year-old daughter that's in law school at Stanford. I cover her. I cover everybody in my family. But it's gone up. It's gone up 40% of my
Since
income.
Obama-
Is
Caesar,
gone
I'm
out.
gonna-
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
I gotta-
Caesar-
I gotta
Caesar,
say-
thank you for speaking
Caesar-
truth.
Okay.
Caesar, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to. Stephanie wants to respond,
just
and then
please.
we're going to move on to another caller. Okay?
Well, I'm a type
Stephanie.
2 diabetic. My husband has worked really hard. We have 5 children over the years, and he's gone from job to job when he got a better opportunity. Never had a problem covering me. Every gain that my husband has made since Obamacare was implemented, I keep thinking about how much our premiums have gone up. And they kept telling us Obamacare was the answer, was the be all. It was going to be the next thing best thing since sliced bread. Less people have access to it. When they complain about healthcare now, all I keep thinking about, every TV show I watch about ER and all this, they're always talking about how horrible it is. But Obama, he should have tweaked it instead of taking down a very good healthcare. Our premiums at $900. I would love to switch places.
We got to
with
say
him.
farewell. We're going to take Dave in El Paso, Texas. We got 2 callers left. Go ahead.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. I just want to make a couple points. The first thing is it is indisputable that Obamacare has actually driven up the cost of health care for tons of people.
Amen. Thank you.
High five.
And now my second point with regards to Obamacare is, there was a much more efficient and less costly way to increase insurance coverage. We could have done that through subsidies, tax credits, et cetera, for those who really needed it without disrupting the entire medical system. My wife was a physical therapist, and I saw the disruption to her hospital, to the entire hospital system, caused by the ACA. Those are the points regarding that. What I really called for was some comments made earlier in the show with regards to the president's unfortunate comment about grabbing the crotch of women. Well, I'd like to ask you, the Democrats on the panel, what they now think about that comment in light of the what's called the wit and wisdom of Michael Bloomberg. That apparently is 32
Peter discussed
pages
that during the
of gross
program.
comments. I apologize if I missed that. So I won't. If you've already commented on the show,
No,
then
no, no. We'll let Peter
Yeah.
respond to it because again, this is going to be the dominating subject of this coming week until we get to next Saturday when Nevada
now let me
votes.
say
So go
one
ahead.
other thing. I am not excusing the president's. I'm not excusing the president's comment. It was gross.
Yes.
I'm not excusing it all. I'm just saying, how do you regard it differently now in light of Michael Bloomberg, or better yet, do you regard Michael Bloomberg as a less viable candidate now in light of this book of alleged?
Well, let me stop. Peter already articulated his position. He's not a Michael Bloomberg fan, so I want David you to tackle this. What has been coming out and was out today in the Washington Post? Does that make Michael Bloomberg less of a viable candidate to you?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking
first,
David.
I've
I'm asking
never-
David
I've
here,
never-
and then we'll go to David in El Paso. What about
I'm
David in
sorry.
El Paso?
Well, David El Paso would never consider Michael Bloomberg or Mr. Bloomberg a viable candidate anyway. I'm a conservative.
I don't want any
would say-
sexual predator billionaires at all in the White House. I don't want Trump. I don't want Bloomberg. They're both trash, and Bloomberg's a dumb idiot for what he wrote and said.
I thought it was my turn to talk.
Yeah, I'm
Go
just
ahead.
summarizing because I got to go.
Go ahead.
And I thought we were going to have like a civil.
Well, we did talk about this
civil
already, so we're trying to be
discussion or
brief now because we're 30
Okay,
minutes over.
so
Go ahead,
the
David.
bottom.
I was just going to say it's
Let David finish his
bottom
point.
line is, I don't think that
twice.
Mr. Bloomberg is a viable candidate, and you can continue to disparage the president all that you want. But I'm just asking you: do you, on the panel, who have indicated some that you think Bloomberg is a viable candidate, do those comments that are apparently he made?
If by
do they
viable
change
you
your
mean
mind?
he could possibly succeed, I said he was running a shrewd and effective campaign. I didn't say I'm personally supporting him.
Yep. So
I don't know
I asked you-
the precise
you don't-
details of the comments.
They don't think so. David, we've got to say farewell. We got one last caller, Kevin in Chicago, listening to us on YouTube. Go ahead.
Hey guys, it sounds like I have the final word, so
You do.
I'll just make a point. There's a lot of convenient amnesia on both sides. The folks that want to talk about the imperative and the cost of the Mueller report are the same people that forget that the Clinton impeachment began with an investigation of Hillary Clinton's real estate deals in Arkansas, took over 4.5 years, and it cost over $70 million. So if you want to talk about cost and imperative, I'd say that looking at collusion from Russia is much more important than looking at real estate deals in Arkansas. So,
agreed.
you know, you could argue that both are questionable, right? One was a fishing trip that took 4 years. One was less costly and took half a year. So I think everybody needs to think about their own homes or their own houses before they start throwing stones.
Okay, well stated. We've got to go. I want to thank our progressives. Peter Hanna, thank you very much. David Massiotra, thank you very much. Our conservatives, Josh Cantro and Stephanie Trussell. We thank you all for being with us on this expanded edition of Beyond the Beltway. And if you enjoyed it, send me an email to beyondthebeltway@gmail.com and let me know whether you like it or not. And again, let me know where you heard it, because I'm not quite sure who's hearing this or seeing it. I know who's not hearing it and seeing it, but I want to know who did hear it. I'm Bruce Dumont. Good night from Chicago.